Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So this is a follow-up to my series of videos about Jordan Edwards. Jordan Edwards was a 15-year-old African-American boy who was shot and killed by ex-Balch Springs police officer Roy Oliver. Now, here's the situation. This occurred back in April of 2017. Jordan Edwards and a whole bunch of teens were at a party. There were reports of shots being fired nearby, and Jordan Edwards was in the back seat of a car as they were pulling out from this party. This officer, Roy Oliver, took an assault rifle and fired several shots into the car, shooting and killing Jordan Edwards, shooting this little brother in the head. And this officer tried to concoct a story to justify this killing. You know, first of all, this young brother was unarmed. No one in the vehicle was armed. These were some young people simply trying to leave a party. Now, this officer claimed that he feared that the people in the car were about to strike his partner. His partner's name is Tyler Gross. That's what this officer claimed. But it turns out that this officer, Gross, never feared for his safety. It turns out that they were not trying to hit him with the vehicle. It turns out that there's video evidence that they were actually moving away from the officer at the time. And also there was testimony to the same extent, saying that they were moving away from that particular officer. So here you have another example where a police officer is concocting a lie to justify the killing of a black man, or a black boy in this case. So the jury didn't buy that story, and they convicted this man of murder. And this is something that is great. You know, this is an achievement, especially in light of what has happened in many years, you know, for the longest time, what continues to happen today, where you have officers who gun down black men in particular and black people in general. And these police officers walk. They usually get away with it. They usually don't face any charges. In the rare incidents where their charges are brought against them, they usually walk. But here you have a situation where the jury was able to see the truth. The jury had the courage to convict this officer. And I commend the attorneys that were involved. I commend the prosecution, and I commend the family's attorneys for pushing this case forward. Now, this is what I'll say. You know, this is another reminder of how important elections are. It is the people that have the power to decide what kind of prosecutors they're going to have. They have the power to decide what kind of state's attorneys they're going to have, what kind of district attorneys they're going to have. And I have to commend the prosecutors here for having the courage to bring this type of case. Too often, prosecutors are reluctant to bring cases against police officers because they regularly rely on police when bringing criminal charges against citizens. So I have to commend and salute the prosecutor who brought this case. We need to elect more prosecutors that have the courage to stand up to these police officers that engage in police brutality. We need prosecutors that have the courage to prosecute police just like they have the courage to prosecute any other citizen that violates the law. So I have to commend them. And this comes at an unusual time. I mean, it comes at a time, this verdict came at the time that marks the anniversary or of the lynching of Emmett Till. And you all remember the story of Emmett Till. The brother was lynched in the South for allegedly whistling at a white woman. It turns out that this woman made up a lie, and that brother ended up dead, beaten beyond recognition, lynched. And, you know, it's just a sign of some kind of progress. It is a glimmer of hope that you would have this kind of outcome in a police brutality case. This is a rare outcome. And hopefully, you know, it is pointing towards a new direction in terms of the criminal justice system in Texas, where this, this particular case was tried. And hopefully, there will be more cases like this where prosecutors are able to bring these charges and have these police officers held accountable. Because as long as police are not held accountable for their crimes against black people, this problem of police brutality will continue. As long as police are not held accountable for their criminal actions, you will continue to see an erosion of the relationship between the police and the community. And without such a relationship, it is difficult, if not impossible, to fight crime in black communities. So if you are one of these conservatives who want to see crime end in the black community, or you want to see something done about the violence in the black community, then you should be about improving the relationship between the black community and the police. Because without that improved relationship, you can't fight crime in black communities. And this whole situation is just a reminder of the extent to which police will lie in order to justify killing black people. Here you had an officer basically make up some story about how they were trying to hit his partner, when it turns out that that was not even true, that there was video evidence to the contrary, that there were witnesses that testified to the contrary. So you can't believe a word that many of these police say. And fortunately, in this case, you had an officer actually testify against another officer by saying that he was not in danger. He didn't fear for his life. The car was not heading in his direction. We need to have more courageous police that are willing to call out wrongdoing by their own fellow officers. And this whole situation is just a reminder of how important body cameras are. Because without the body camera, it would be one person's word against another person's word. And we know how that turns out when African Americans are involved. They, meaning the jury, often will believe the word of a white police officer over the words of black witnesses. So cameras are paramount. We have to ensure that all these jurisdictions are required to have their officers wear body cameras. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings. I'm glad that the family was able to acquire or receive some kind of justice in this case. Peace.